Elaine, thanks so much for sitting down with us today. And for those that are watching this is Elaine Gordon, Natalie Jones' mother, and we will be having a very candid one-on-one with her to tell her story and also more on Natalie's story. So Elaine, thanks so much for taking the time out.
You're mighty welcome.
Starting the interview, would you like to go into your backstory, where you're from and how you grew up?
I was growing up in a divorced family. My daddy was a severe alcoholic. My mother had to tend to my sister, which was born a waterhead, and at the age of 2, they had to put tubes in her head to where she had to learn to sit up, walk, eat, everything all over again. So that way, that took my mother's time, you know. Whenever I was 8.5 months pregnant with my son, little Mike, my favorite grandma, Kate Flollow, she was murdered on Highway 16. She was 79 years old. She was like my mom. I mean, she was very, very special, very special. Then I married, married, had a little Mike, and it was just me. I left his dad, he was born in 1986. I left his dad in 1987, so it was me and him, right? So me and him got an apartment over in Shenandoah, and it was just me and him, I mean, for almost 6 years, you know. He was a special kid. I mean, he was me. He was more me, you know. But anyways, then in 1990, I met this, I'm not calling him a man. I met him. Well, in 1992, I had Natalie in that December. He was, I think he might have been in jail. I don't know. After he came into her life at 4 years old, because his mother actually seen her and told him that's her granddaughter, because she was a spitting image of him. Well, he sends me papers to the judge to do the DNA, you know, and well, even after that, I never let Natalie go out there because it was a wild place. I mean, it was a hotel for anybody when I say anybody, I mean just people that don't know if they're coming and going, you know. And so I basically covered Natalie. I raised Natalie. Me, myself, and I raised Natalie. Well, whenever we lost her brother, she lost her brother. She lost her family. Because them other ones over there that claimed to be family, they never liked Natalie. They never wanted Natalie. They never accepted Natalie, you know, and that hurt Natalie because Natalie was reaching out for love. Cut.
That's a really good point about Natalie was always looking for love, especially from men, because she lacked a father figure in her life. Would she constantly try to reach out or get that from the father's side of the family? And was she considered a black sheep of sorts?
Yes, most definitely. She was considered the black sheep because he had another daughter that is like probably maybe 13 months older than Natalie. And when I done the DNA, they wouldn't do DNA. And it'd be like different times when I did let her go over for like an Easter or whatever. She would come back and tell me that somebody was mean to her. That her sister and her cousin picked on her. Or her oldest brother would slap her upside her head whenever he walked in or she walked by. We had major problems. I mean, major problems, you know. The first time that she went over there, she had a piece of super bubble gum in her hand. And this was the first time. And she came up to me, I was making biscuits. And she said, "Mommy, my hand hurts." And I said, "Well, let me see, baby," like that. Where she had that piece of super bubble gum in her hand at 4 years old. The oldest, not a stepsister because they ain't married, tried to get that gum out of her hand and left a finger cut in the indentions of her hand. Naturally, I'm on the phone. I don't care where you at or how far you got. You turn around and you come back and don't let nobody out of that car because I got a few things I'm going to say to everybody. So when he came back and I showed him her hand, he did get upset and he did turn around and say something to, you know, the sister and then say something to the mama. And then, you know, I told him, I said, "This is not going to happen." I said, "I'll beat her." And I said, "If I have to beat the mama, I have to do that too." I don't, you know, this baby's 4 years old. Why? A super bubble piece of gum. But anyway, so that right there was the first incident. And that's whenever I said, I was thinking to myself, these people are jealous. You know, the girlfriend, she was jealous of me. So I guess that, you know, that
kind of set the tone of the relationship for an innocent child who just wants to be part of a blended family.
Yes. And I mean, how many kids? He got about 9 kids. But when we lost her brother, she lost her family just as well as I lost my son. Because that's the only brother that's been a brother to her.
How would you describe the relationship between the one sister, or how would you more so describe the relationship between the one alleged stepsister or half-sister that was in Natalie's orbit right before she vanished?
Oh, I can describe that very well. She hated my daughter. We lived in LaGrange right before we moved back up here and needed my baby's help to take care of the grandma
And that's their,
That's their grandma.
that's Natalie's father's mother
Mom,
that
yes,
was passing away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she used my daughter to come over there every day and babysit. Didn't give her gas money or nothing. You know, but by the time she come in from the door from work, it was time for her to go.
And when was she going, when was Natalie going over to the family home to look after?
It was like
the
in
grandmother?
2018, but
Okay.
they lived in LaGrange, and at the time we lived in LaGrange.
Okay.
Okay, she came in one day and she told me that whoever came in and walked right by her and did not speak. And I said, you better hope you didn't speak, because I'll tear your butt up. Don't you ever lower yourself to that standard, you know. And it hurt her. It hurt her feelings. You know, she didn't know what she had done. That's all she could ever say in the back of her mind. I don't know what I've done, you know. The sneaky little snake wanted to go out and have dinner. I begged her, Natalie, please don't. You know, please. But Natalie was wanting the attention. And this is true love. They don't even love herself. They don't love herself. She don't even love her kids. She ain't raising none of them, you know. I mean,
sorry to stop you there. That's an interesting observation, because prior to that, what we know is that Natalie had ended her relationship with JL in December of 2019. And then around March of 2020 is when she moved to Foley, Alabama.
yes.
We've seen communications between this person and Natalie, and it was 3 or 4 texts, but it was no, let's hang out, let's get together. Natalie just stated that she was moving away and that, you know, this person was welcome.
She was wanting to get away from them.
Right.
Mothers.
And
I mean, it broke my heart. I really didn't take her serious. But she did tell me, Mama, when I get my taxes, I'm going, you know.
The interesting thing to me here is when Natalie came back to Georgia from Foley, it was a very short period of time before she vanished. It was, you know, the matter of a few months.
Yeah,
and
she
so
came back in May.
She came back in May.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wonder what sparked up this conversation between Natalie and this sibling of sorts of hers, because you said that she wanted to go out to dinner. I wonder how that got initiated, because how it was portrayed online was that they're the best of friends and that they're planning a Mexico trip.
When this happened to my daughter, nobody knew who is this, and to her sister, who is this, nobody knew where them people came from, you know. And about the Mexico trip was for me. She had bought tickets for me and her to go on a cruise. Not about that thing, it was about her mama. And let's get something else clear.
And that was during the pandemic. And you didn't feel comfortable going on the trip.
Yeah, because I had to get a shot. That booster,
vaccine.
Yeah, and I don't believe in it.
Right.
I mean,
so the viewers understand the situation. Natalie also posted on Facebook where she had gotten her passport. She had applied and had gotten her passport. It was pending delivery. And she asked her girlfriends on Facebook if any of them wanted to go to an all expenses paid trip to Mexico. And what you're confirming, Elaine, is that Natalie originally had planned that trip for you and her.
Yes.
There was no other trip to go to
that
Mexico.
was a Mother's Day gift for me.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. That makes sense. Do you find it interesting that after Natalie vanished, that it's almost as if certain people or the other side of the family knew her more than you knew your own daughter?
I think it's a joke. They know it's a joke. They know in their heart who took care of that baby. They know in their heart who that baby loved. They know in their heart that they had nothing to do with her. Nothing. I mean, all they got to do is just admit the truth, because they know, just like God knows, and I know. They know. And can we get to the when I go report her missing?
When Natalie went missing, she disappeared on the 4th of July in the evening hours, coming back from Jackson's Gap back home to a home that you shared together. To my understanding, her youngest son had a little accident in the pool and had to get a cast on his arm and was going to have to get another cast or something similar that following Monday.
Yes. And
so she had every incentive to come back.
Yes. And well, even say that because she has a post right now on her phone that she's saving for that baby, because of all these people saying that she ran away from her boys and her mama. She's saving that because where they text on the 4th of July, she said, well, just tell him I love him and I'll see him on Monday, when we have to go back to the doctor about the cast on his arm. She told her, she said, tell him good night, I love him.
Do you remember, I mean, I know that was such a difficult period after learning that your daughter had not returned home. Did it alarm you at all that she did not return that night after learning that she had vanished? Or did you think she could have potentially stayed somewhere?
I stayed with a friend of mine named Sherry. That was July 3rd. Natalie came over. We swam, we grilled steaks, and we danced. We was just enjoying ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Well, whenever she went to leave, we hugged each other and bye, I love you so much, be careful, like that. Well, the next day, when I started dialing her phone, it was going straight to voicemail. Later on that afternoon, I kept dialing it, and it just went straight to voicemail. So I told my friend Sherry, I need to get home. You need to take me home. She said, there ain't nothing you can do there. You don't need to be alone. I said, you're going to take me or I can start kicking rocks. I don't care. I'm going home. There's something wrong. My baby, this is not my baby. My baby is going to have that phone charged up and have that phone, whatever. It's not going to voicemail. So all that day, I was like worried sick. I didn't have nowhere going. And then the next day, Monday, because they went down there Sunday, but Monday morning,
It's okay.
She shows up at my house. And she said, have you seen Natalie? And I said, no, have you seen Natalie? Because she had your kids on the 4th taking them to get their nails done. As far as I know, you're the last person that's seen her on the 4th. And she said, no, but I've been out looking everywhere. Why would she be out looking? That thrown me right there. Why are you out looking for her? Is there something that you know? Or something or whatever? So anyways, she would like try to butter me up, taking the words that I only speak to my daughter, my son, and my 2 grandsons. I love you so much. Those are the people that heard them words. She would tell me that, because that's about mom. But anyways, she was like, I don't know if she was like trying to, I don't know what the thing was trying to do, because I don't know what goes on up there in that thing's head, okay? But anyway, she started, somebody donated me that van. She paid $300 because of Avalon tax or something. And then she started like coming up. She said, I need something out of Natalie's room. This time I done took my medication. And when I tell you I take my medication, I take medication. that a tornado could come through and I'm knocked out. But anyway, she waited till like 10:30 that night.
And this was wild. This was still in July.
This was like when she's talking about she got some coon dogs. She said, I need to get something out of Natalie's room. You know, you got a bag? I said, yeah, and there in that drawer, I was thinking she might get a Walmart bag. She didn't. She grabbed a trash bag. I wasn't thinking, asking her what was in it. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's telling me. I've done had like 3 people, and her oldest son said that his mommy had some money in a shoebox in her closet that she was saving up for them at home. I didn't ask to, but then later on when I did ask, she said it was a hairbrush. That's a lie. Natalie had a chi hairbrush, and her mama's got that chi hairbrush right now. I got it in my pocket because, as a matter of fact, that I towed around. So she did get a hairbrush. I can't say 100% that she knows where some money was or got it, but she did get her hairbrush.
That's wild. And then they're kind of jumping around here. There was also regarding the alleged predator that Natalie had exposed in her private Facebook group where she names this person by name. This person is also tied to the stepsister and others. Natalie allegedly had a tape or a CD or something of the sort that had potential incriminating evidence on it that she took to an attorney.
And that's what was fierce over. She told Natalie she better take it down.
And that was a post, the referencing the video that was posted in Natalie's private group where she names him and says what he did to her at 15 or 16.
She loves him to death, and she better take that down. Well, Natalie said, no, this is my story, and that's when I think that the witch tried to make up with her and get her off or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Because that's, like I'm telling y'all, it all came back in like a month before she came up missing.
That's actually very interesting because in that private Facebook group, Natalie made that post where she was outing that alleged predator as soon as JL added him and into the group the same day that Natalie broke up with JL, as if he wanted the alleged predator and to see this video, and which they did. They have both viewed the video in the group, and that's interesting timing is all I'm going to say about that. That's very interesting timing because we know that the stepsister was living with, or at least staying with, the alleged predator right before moving close to where you and Natalie had been living. And I think she moved there pretty close to right before Natalie vanished, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a few months.
Yeah, it was like whenever I had moved and me and Natalie moved in together and Natalie moved, whatever, and Natalie needed a place to stay. And so she would ask her, could she spend the night? And, we got to hide it. We can't let him know, and just, just different stuff like that. But,
let's cut in, we'll pause for a minute. So in those initial and crucial days after Natalie had vanished, there was a very narrow window where law enforcement and people in the community, friends, anyone that was willing to try to help to do so and to use that window to try to locate Natalie, which I think the community did a very good job at being boots on the ground and utilizing whatever resources they had. They knew those areas. When you reported Natalie missing, it was that Monday, and how do you feel, how was that interaction with law enforcement? Did they take you seriously?
No, they did not. Well, the one, I did not have a ride down there. So I had to catch a ride with this thing. And whenever I got in there, I was telling him that my daughter is missing. I have not talked to my daughter. I cannot get my daughter on the phone. My daughter does not do this, you know. And he was asking some kind of question. I really don't know. And then I told him, I said, my daughter has diagnosed with bipolar twice. Once after she and after she from pathways. Well, come to find out, they go back behind my back and they tell him, Natalie's not missing. Natalie wants to run. Natalie ran away. She don't want to be with her mama or her boys. She ran away. And then told him that she's never been diagnosed with bipolar. So whenever I go back in to talk to him, he says,
He being the investigator?
yes. Mm-hmm. He said, maybe your daughter just wanted to get away. Maybe your daughter just wanted to get away from you and get away from her boys and just get away. You know, I said, let me tell you something. I said, my daughter is all she had. She is all I had, besides the 2 babies. I said, we might have our tantrums, but it is because of me being a mama, and she wants to correct her kids, and I would get upset. You know, I mean, that might be a mama's thing, but that's the only thing that we would be in arguments about, would be me and the boys and her. And I said, she just got some land.
She was very excited.
She is enrolled to start college in August. She's done got everything she needs to get. All her work, computer, everything that she needed. You know, all she's waiting on is just a day. Because her dream is to have her and her boys their own home. And I said, run away? I said, I don't know where you get this from, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's a lie. Me and her boys is what mattered in her life. That was her life. She didn't know no clowns on the left or no jokers on the right. She knows her mama and her boys in the middle. And that's the bottom line. And now, can I talk about that little?
Sure.
Okay. For all of these folks out here that thing about thinking that me and her fought, well, let me give you a good example. I was a mama. My daughter or my son never ever cussed at me. I never ever cussed at them. And it was just one particular moment that I think I was upset by, or at the time, you know, she's offended or whatever. And I was raising Cain, and before I knowed it, I thought she called me a bitch. Okay, I'm her mother. That don't fly. I didn't call my mom no bitch, you know, and that's the first time I ever heard that come out of her. So I slapped her. When I slapped her, she nailed me. I mean, and then we got up, and it's like, Mama, if you would keep your mouth shut and just listen to what I'm saying, none of this right here would have happened. Now here we both are feeling so bad, you know, because of this. She said, I said, why are you being a bitch? I didn't say you're a bitch. She said, but no, you just want to hear that bitch come out, you know. And anyway, but so that is the clearest remark, and I have 2 witnesses in my home at that time that knowed that's the only two, me hit her and her hit me, ever in our lives, ever. I just want to clear that up with y'all clowns over there. I really do.
That's really important, and it just goes back to show that, again, if you followed Natalie or if you were friends with her, you saw that the evidence is there. It was always
Her mom, me and her, pictures of me and her, and pictures of her and her boys and son, me, in there with him. That's all pictures she ever had.
Absolutely.
No sisters and brothers on those, no pictures like that, you know. There was one picture taken on Father's Day because that thing took her over there, you know. So, anyways, yeah, there's every picture that we have, Nellie,
singing in the car,
singing, dancing in the car, perking up,
on vacation, just experiencing
everything. Roller skating. I mean, I remember me her used all the time, and then when I came along, she's out there pushing him in a stroller out there while we're roller skating. She's always doing something. Her boys, always. Nobody raised her boys. Natalie raised her boys.
And I think that's a really good point that Christy has mentioned before when Natalie was living in Alabama, is that Natalie was the one that would drive those 5-6 hours, however long it was, to go as soon as she could get the boys. She was the one making that commute to go get them or meet up with whomever.
She left her boys up here 2 weeks top. That was to get her apartment set up. That was to get her job lined up. That was to get everything done. But she came back and she got the boys. Because if I wanted to see them and she wasn't coming up that weekend because she had work or something, or the baby's daddy wanted to see him, we would have to meet her in like Montgomery.
That's a long trek.
It is, but it was well worth it. I mean, you know, I'm getting to see my baby, I'm getting to see my grandbabies, and, you know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is she had her boys down there with her. She's not letting nobody raise her boys, not even me. I mean, and God knows I tried.
Elaine,
yeah.
Clearly you haven't been very happy with how local law enforcement handled Natalie's disappearance. Do you feel that the case now being reviewed by the DA's office may provide some clarity or get justice for your daughter?
If they are true law enforcement, they would see the negligence with that. I gave DB her journal, and instead of him giving it back to me, he gave it, took it from my home and gave it to them. He never, not one time, called to me. Him and the other old man came over there at my house with a list of names on his phone and asked me, when did some Nate, whatever, drop this off in my mailbox? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, these names are here. I said, let me tell you something, dude. Them names are in there on my dresser right now. They came from, you know. And I said, I'm trying to do y'all's job while you trying to lock me up. Telling me if I interfere, you're going to put me somewhere where I can't do it no more. So, what Miss Thane done was took a picture of it because it was laying right there. She took a picture of it and sent it down there. So, everything, they loved him. They thought he was doing a great job. Great job. How that man can sit and look at me and lie in my face about my baby. And when I asked him what's the closest to him, and he says a fallen officer. Hey, I'm sorry, but that officer signed up for that job. My baby didn't sign up for this job, you know. And how them sisters can lie, cold-hearted lie.
Did they
on my baby about her wanting to run away from me and her boys. They know they was cold-hearted lying.
Did they ever tell you And by they, I mean local law enforcement, who all they were interviewing?
No,
And if they did interview?
I know they didn't interview her daddy. I know they didn't interview my roommate. I know they didn't interview another friend of mine.
And
They did not interview the babysitter that she kept on talking about. She dropped them kids off at.
they didn't
I wish I could
interview
get
Christy.
work records because I guarantee you she didn't work that day. Yeah.
That is really interesting with those two people specifically, and those two people being, one, they did not interview the woman that Natalie dropped off the stepsister's children with, and the second person being Elaine and Natalie's roommate, who
Yes.
had seen her. Now, can you clarify or let people know that Natalie did come back to the house for a very short
Yes, but
period
she
before she left
to go to down there.
to the lake house.
Yes. Yes.
And then she never returned that night,
No.
based on what your roommate said
Yes.
at the time.
Mm.
Do you believe that Natalie made it back to the surrounding areas?
I don't know what to believe because when we asked for everything, I had to have a probable cause. Okay, you got this man sitting in jail right now that tried to kill an investigator all the way down to the T. You got the same man that tried to hire Natalie's brother to get rid of an ex-boyfriend for $5,000, and I still don't have a probable cause to get in his phone.
I'm going to pause there for a second because I think that is really interesting. That do you find it a little odd that the person that's currently incarcerated for putting out the murder for hire hit on the deputy felt comfortable enough to reach out to the stepsister to ask them to ask their brother?
Yeah, evidently they did. Evidently he did. And also,
It's in court documents.
I have 4 people right now that said if he can't have her, won't nobody have her.
Do you feel and I've asked you this question in the past, out of all the people, and maybe not just limited to one, it could be 2, 3, multiple.
Yes.
Do you feel that he has the most motive?
I mean, I'm looking at like, he has a motive. Has a motive. Has a motive. But I do think that she lured my baby back. Because I know she wouldn't meet none of them. Because I'd always have to go with her to take that baby to meet his daddy or pick him up with her. Because she was scared. So I think that, she's the one that lured her back. And whenever we asked for the phone records, because her phone came up gone, her jewelry came up gone, her white sunglasses came up gone, none of that was there. So the investigator claims that he went to get her phone records and didn't realize until September that they only gave him half of them. I mean, come on. This is why I didn't like you, man. This is why, because you lied in my face. Ain't nobody don't give no investigator half of nothing. And then he told me that there was a ping on September 26th, but he didn't go out there because he thought it was another robbery chase.
He told both you and Christy. So
yes.
That's 2 eyewitnesses.
Yes.
The investigator not only told about this ping that happened because he only had partial records, but also knowing that law enforcement's not going to pay for the testing of Natalie's hair, which could essentially just prove whether any drugs were in her system or not. He told both of you when you were together and visited Heard County Sheriff's Office that he had her hair and had also pulled her body out of the car himself.
Yes, he said he removed her body. Nobody was supposed to be around that car. When that car was spotted, there was supposed to be one deputy, somebody out there taping it off, and one deputy sitting there until a coroner got there. There was supposed to be no 5 or 6 police people up there. And then there's one picture where 2 officers was up there with no hazmats on. You know, I mean, DB done a lot of mean things to me. And God's seen it. I mean, he took things like a computer and other things. He didn't give them to me.
We still don't know where those items are.
No, the computer, no, because I had a friend that knows how to get into it. Well, as soon as DB found out about it, somebody let DB know about it, and as soon as he found out about it, this man then turned it over to Investigator Roy in LaGrange Police Department, and they said DB came in there showing his butt, demanding on that computer. I have not got that computer back yet. Ross Henry goes and buys my grandson a brand new computer because that computer can't be found. The day that Christy came, I called down there at 8 o'clock that morning. Told him I need to speak to him. I want to speak to him what you spoke to my sister-in-law about. He didn't return my call. He called my sister-in-law. Asked my sister-in-law, what's Elaine doing calling me? What does she want? Do you know what she wants? So when my sister-in-law called me and asked me, did I call Dan Boswell? I said, I did. How do you know? She said, oh, he called me, won't know what you wanted. I said, the clown knows what I want. So me and her get in there. I said, come on, let's go. We're going down here. I don't care. We'll go. They know when I was coming. No, he didn't like me. But you know why he didn't like me? Because I had an attitude with him. Because he was lying dead in my eyes about my baby. And that's why, you know.
Well, you're a mother whose daughter is missing. It's not your job to cater to someone else that is a professional in law enforcement. It's their job to cater to you.
Okay, and
as a grieving mother.
And there was another episode where I was riding around with Penny, a friend of mine named Penny, looking for Natalie. Well, we heard that this girl made a statement that this guy pulled up in her yard 5 o'clock in the morning with a freezer on the back of the truck. And he said he had 35 dead catfish in it. Well, when I called down there to tell Mr. Boswell, he tells me to go get her address. Yeah. I told him right where she lived at and everything. He said, well, ride down the road and get her address for me. I said, yeah, but yet still you want to put me away for interfering in your investigation. And then when her car was spotted over in Rootville, they say that this black man with a cane was driving it, whatever. Okay, well, I'm not waiting on Dan. I told him about it, but you know, who knows. So I got Penny to go with me over there. Well, as soon as I opened the door, bam, there that bald head was. I ran back out because at this time he still told me that he was locking me up. So I ran back out. We left. Gave him time to leave. We done watching when he left. We go back to the store. I said, ma'am, I know one of the guys was here. I said, my name is Elaine. I'm Natalie Jones' mother. Somebody reported her car being out here, and I want to know, did he go back there and watch a video? She said, yeah, but he went back there alone. I said, did anybody go with him? She said, no, he didn't want nobody to. I said, okay, yeah, thank you. But, I mean, you know, he wasn't back there long. And then that girl said that, she said that she could get her manager to go back there, and no, he didn't want no. Just like he didn't want no help from nobody. Him thinking him and that other old man can run my daughter's case when it's worldwide.
Well, and it also potentially, or it did cross state lines, which
exactly
would constitute FBI involvement had it been requested. And that's such a sad truth here with a lot of these cases, not only with Natalie's, is
yes.
that the GBI and the FBI have to be requested, and I just feel like in this case you have negligence of people thinking that they have it under control, and potentially the reckless part about all of this is that it could have cost someone their life
Exactly, yeah.
because of ego.
Yeah, and it's really sad that, he would not take my word, but then people have a bunch of fake people in their life. When I say fake, I mean fake. And they might have all these bunches of friends, because they've done the rides. They've done several things to make money,
Elaine, regarding the press coverage, do you feel that it's a little odd that other people other than yourself were the spokespeople for Natalie versus it being you, her mother? Were you approached to do any of these media interviews?
I was only approached to do one, and that was the first Channel 5. And at that moment, I couldn't do it. But as far as Dr. Phil, Nancy Grace, I never even know nothing about it.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you were disrespected?
Very much so. Very much so.
I think a lot of people that have followed the case, unfortunately, have taken sides, and there's been some animosity on both sides of you being the mother and then this other side of the family that really appears to not have known Natalie, clearly not to the capacity that
Right.
you knew your
Yes.
own daughter,
Yes.
but they became the spokespeople for Natalie and
For attention, to be the spotlight.
Do you think that it's important to get Natalie's story out there as her mother?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Yes, I sure do, because I'm the only one that can get it out there. Everybody that knows me knows I have been a good mother. I worked 2 jobs at one time, taking care of both of my kids. Matter of fact, I was at work when I got my phone call about my son getting hit. But everybody knows I have provided a home, always. Not them. Now, all the rest of them did stay over in that motel. With no guidance. You know what I'm saying? But not Natalie. I held Natalie. I covered Natalie. I did it all.
To the best of your ability.
To the best of my ability, to the best of what I had left up here. I done everything. Just like when she came back from Alabama, who'd she go to? It sure wasn't out there with them clowns. It was to her mom.
And her goal, and you touched on this earlier in our conversation, and I think it's important to highlight, is, like you said, things didn't work out in Alabama. That's life, right? You have your ups, you have your downs.
Right.
But the one thing that is very resilient about Natalie is she got knocked down in life, but she got right back up. Every single time.
And had a smile on her face that
would just light up a room.
She was my sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
She was everything. Everything to me. And it's just so hard. I've even asked God, why didn't you take me? Why did you leave her? She has 2 kids. I've lived my life. Why couldn't it be me? My baby did not deserve this. She found good in everybody. And when I talk about, I can find the skankiest person in this parking lot. First thing will be, Mama, don't say that. That's mean. That's rude. Mama, don't do that. That was my baby. She never thought she was better than nobody. But, there's jealous folks out there, you know what I'm talking about? But she never presented herself. She walked in the room with a smile, loud. Hey, everybody, just a lot of things, and I don't know. Jealousy is what got my baby. I do know that. Jealousy is what took my baby, whether female or male. That is, because Natalie was just one of a kind. Natalie was she was one of a kind. I love my son and I miss my son, but I guess it's from when Natalie was older and was with me more, and the two babies. This is a hard pill to swallow. And yeah, I do take Xanaxes. Let's get that clear. They're prescribed to me. But I gotta put my shoes on for 1 hour and see what you gonna take. See how you gonna walk. I mean, not just one of my babies, but both of my babies. And sometimes I feel so alone. I mean, so alone, because I went from 4 to me. I mean, I used to do a lot of being active at the kids' school with Natalie luncheon and plays and Awanas, because she had a voice in church. She loved God, but I was always a part of that, and now I'm not. I mean, it's just a horrible. And I just want to get justice for my baby. I want to get them monsters off the street. And God be with you. That's all I got to say. God be with them. And don't let me find them for police. I mean, if I found out for sure that's who it was, because jail would be too good for them. I mean, I don't care what my baby did, what my baby said. She did not deserve what she got. And she's got these boys. It's like Natalie. He carries a lot on his shoulder. But this little boy, he's always saying he misses his mom. I miss my mom. I mean, he brings up things like they painted her car pink in the yard. I mean, just a lot of different things, because she was always entertaining them kids. Always doing something with them kids. You get to talking to him about it. He would roll over or go in another room and just tuck his little head. Like last night, and he said, I'm sad. And when these babies come and ask, when he comes and asks me questions on what happened to his mom, I don't have the answers. I have nothing. And that's so hard. I just tell them monsters, baby monsters, and one day they're going to be fulfilled. They're going to be out, window. But yeah, it's really, really, I don't know. I get a lot of emotions, a lot. But she was just my everything. She was just happy, jolly, loved life, loved herself, loved her boys, loved me. It was our little village.
The last thing I want to touch on here, the area where Natalie lived and the areas surrounding where she was found, where she frequented, these are small towns and small communities where people know anything and everything about anything and everyone.
Exactly.
What would your plea to anyone that knows something and is perhaps scared because if there is corruption or if it is a powerful, nefarious person, what would your plea to someone that may have information be?
Just please come forward. Her boys and me and her, we need justice. She needs to rest in peace. Just please put your feet in my shoes. And if you have a child, and if I know something, would you want me to come and tell you? Don't worry about these little clowns on the ghost face, because they can be well taken care of. They're nothing. I mean, if you gotta have somebody backing you back, you ain't nothing. Just please, I'm begging you, with everything inside my heart, to please come forward and please speak up. I mean, she does have these babies, and just don't listen to nobody out there. If you're scared, you can be anonymous. Just write my group and just say, look, I'm not even gonna tell you who I am, but I know this, and they can take it forward. But I'm just begging with everything I have in me to please come forward. That's my prayer every day.
So, Christy, knowing what you know about how the investigation was handled, do you feel that everyone that should have been interviewed was interviewed?
Absolutely not. Nobody from the party that night was interviewed. Babysitter wasn't interviewed where she dropped kids off. The kids themselves weren't interviewed. I wasn't interviewed. Her former landlord wasn't interviewed. There's so many people that if you wanted to do a thorough investigation, they should have talked to. And the only person to blame for the lack of those people being it is Lieutenant Dan Boswell. He was the lead investigator. It was his job, his responsibility. And he did not do his job. In my opinion, he did not do his job.
How do you feel about them not letting GBI take the lead or bringing in the FBI?
I think that's their arrogance. And the GBI guy that they did assign, I talked to him too. The same phone number for Boswell and the GBI agent, Durham.
No, is this GBI agent, that's the same one that didn't believe that Natalie had hid her car in the back of a U-Haul when she had moved from Georgia to Alabama?
Both of them didn't believe me. Boswell didn't believe me. And it was like he was arguing with me. I'm like, I have the pictures and the video. And he was like, oh, well, send it to me. He tried to tell me a car wouldn't fit in a U-Haul. Apparently you need to go do some measurements. Because yes, it did.
And then skipping ahead to when you first came to Georgia and spent a week with Elaine, and both of you popped in unannounced to visit with...
Well, no, let's back it up on that. We did try to announce ourselves. We did call for an appointment. And again, Lieutenant Boswell, Heard County Sheriff's Department, did not call Elaine, but called her sister-in-law. And then claimed when we did show up that he didn't have time to return her call. And so we called him out on that. Didn't have time to call Elaine, but he did have time to call Joan.
That's a little strange.
Yeah, because I'm sitting right there and Joan sent a text to Elaine. Boswell just called wanting to know why you're coming in. Why you want to talk to him. Like, what? He didn't want to deal with Elaine. Whether that's because he just doesn't like her or their personalities, whatever. But the reality is, Natalie was and still is Elaine's daughter. And that's who he should have been talking to. Not.
He ended up making a few remarks to both you and Elaine, or in front of you and Elaine while you were there, regarding the hair follicle testing, which they weren't going to pay for anyways. And then also, I think the more disturbing statement that was allegedly made is that he picked Natalie up out of the car himself, or that's what he at least implied.
Oh no, that's not what he implied. That's what he said. There was no implication. It was, I'm the one that picked her up out of the car.
How do you feel about that?
Well, let's see. From any photos that I've seen that were taken from the street, nobody was wearing masks, proper attire at all. So If he actually did, then you just contaminated. They didn't cover the car, then you just contaminated a whole scene. And they can't sit there and say that that car was there that whole time. There wasn't any bird crap on it. There wasn't any animal claws on it. The trunk was open partway. A creature would have gotten in there.
Buzzards would have been swarming.
Yes.
What do you think that is the motive behind Natalie's demise? Do you think it could be as simple as, just a one-person, one-off kind of job? Or do you believe that it's a lot more complex?
I think there is some complexity to it. I think knowing now some of the things that we have learned just in this trip that's not been let out to everybody else. We now know 2 vehicles that were at the double bridges, and both of those vehicles come back to 2 people that we suspect. And we'll get them.
Out of this trip that you just made to Georgia to look into some more places and see some things, what has been the highlight or discovery highlight? Would it be the double bridges?
Knowing now about those 2 cars? Yep. And for me, very credible witness. And in my opinion, since we're talking law enforcement, I think they need to start over from scratch. And I don't think it needs to be Heard County or Meriwether. I think it needs to be FBI.
As far as the online petition that was submitted to the DA's office and the Tri-County Area Circuit Court Judge, are you hopeful that there's enough probable cause
Oh yeah,
for a new set of eyes to be on the case?
yes. And there's no way that Lieutenant Boswell did a complete and thorough investigation when so many of us that have now been doing this for a year and a half, almost 2 years, that the number of hours that we've all put into it, there's no way that he could have put in the same amount of hours. It would be impossible. Which then, as far as I'm concerned, that puts Sheriff Ross Henry. He's the one running that show. He needs to be asking some questions to Lieutenant Boswell, in my opinion.
Since you started following this case, clearly because you had known Natalie and have now connected with other families of other victims, deceased, found or not found, like Olivia Fowler, Lauren Henderson, Sydney. Do you think it's strange that there is some overlap there, though these cases clearly most likely are separate as it relates to motive, perhaps?
I think it's very interesting that, and I know the 6 degrees of separation, but the way that all these intersect with each other, I've not ever seen anything like this before. I mean, this is a web of crime. I mean, the drugs, the everything, just that I've heard since I've been in town. You know, I mean, from the minute I got here, and I was at a restaurant and started talking with one of the waitresses, and even she had heard of one of the names that we have questioned, and his trafficking of females. The same one that, as soon as I mentioned his name to Lieutenant Boswell, he locked eyes with me. He don't want me saying his name, and he doesn't want me knowing anything about him, and it's too late.
Now that you've visited all of these areas surrounding Heard County and neighboring counties, what is your impression of these areas? The people in them, whether it be positive or negative, like what is your
You
overall?
definitely have some, you've got some good people here. No doubt about it. But you also have generational poverty, which obviously leads into other things that the person that isn't in poverty doesn't get into usually. You know, all these little scams, you know, I mean, donations for Easter baskets or whatever else it may be. Just the scams that get run around here, and all these people are all connected. I think that's part of what drives it. And then the other thing is, in a lot of these cases in this area, you look back on the parents and you see that generational curse. Parents weren't very educated. They did drugs. They've got criminal records. It just keeps continuing. At some point, we have got to be proactive in changing that and changing even the mindset about people like that. If they want out of a situation, there is a way to get out, a right way to get out. And ultimately, I wish some of these people would say, "Hey, can you get me into the rehab?" Because I'll get them in. But until they want it, it's just going to keep right on like this.
Well, and I think that a lot of these places, they do have some sort of rehabilitation, but it's just not up to par with what it should be. It's not full-blown rehabilitation places, and then on top of that, the good places cost more money, you know?
Well, and let's be real about this for a second. By the time a person says, "Okay, I need help," they've got a major problem. And they go into a 30-day program a lot of times. It took you longer than 30 days to get the habit where it is. It's going to take longer than 30 days to undo it. To retrain your mind, to, get you to where you can function in society and be a productive citizen. I think people, they really do lose hope. And they don't see a way out, so they just continue down that path. And I think part of the thing, especially with not just Natalie, but the other girls in this area that have gone missing, sad to say, I think they're looked down on. And I think law enforcement a lot of times goes, and they're an addict anyway. So they don't care. The badge is just nothing but a job. But when it gets to that point, it's time to look for another career. Your heart's not in it, don't do it.
Or get someone in that is willing to take on a huge project like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I do agree with you in the sense that if you're going out and working a job, it's like working in a nursing home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you work at a nursing home, everyone is mostly on their last leg of life, and you start seeing similarities in all of them, and oftentimes you see negligence, and it's just because they just, this is what they get used to seeing, and they become numb to it. But that's part of the problem in any industry, especially law enforcement. Mm-hmm. That oath that you talked about before, to protect and serve, has been abused.
Very much so. I've known officers that have said, "You know why I did this? Because I can." No, man, that's not how it should work. I've seen that happen, so I know it happens.
Going back to Natalie's case, more so, we talked about, do you think it would be a one-person, one-off, or a complex, multi-person job? You having known Natalie for the time while she was in Alabama, even though that may have been a very short era, what do you think the motive behind if you just pause and look at everything that you've learned along the way since she's disappeared, do you have a go-to motive of why you think she was murdered, if you believe she was murdered?
I think that somebody was afraid she was going to talk.
So essentially you think she knew too much about something and they saw her as a liability.
Yep. Obviously there was also a custody thing going on. So, and the fact that the two vehicles that we now have been told about makes sense.
And how they're intertwined.
Because, you know, I mean, we've said from the beginning at Double Bridges, she would have stopped for somebody that she knew. And now we know the two cars.
If you could make a plea with the community, having met with Elaine earlier, having seen Natalie's youngest child, what would you tell the public at this point, this far along in the investigation? Because clearly that message has shifted a little bit because Natalie's been found and she was unfortunately no longer with us. What would you, at this point, tell people that may know something or may be afraid to speak out? Do you have any words for them, or anyone nefarious for that matter too, on both sides of the spectrum?
If you know something, you know, we've been saying, you know something, speak up, say something. If you don't want to go to the police or to anybody else, message me. I don't care if you think, well, it might be nothing. It's just like somebody today that haven't said, oh yeah, and told us about some stuff, and it's like, ding, 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 ding. That's what we needed to hear, you know? And so no matter how small or insignificant you think it is, it not necessarily is insignificant. And I wish Natalie and Lauren and Sydney and Olivia and, you know, even KK, when she was, like, all of them, they deserve the same amount of coverage and compassion as Gabby Petito. The world went crazy looking for her. People pulled up their cameras from you know, driving. Every single one of these ladies deserves nothing less. Doesn't matter if they're cute, doesn't matter if they're white, it doesn't matter if they are poor. Every single one of them should be treated the exact same.
Here is the bathroom, my own bathroom. Love you, Mama. We're gonna be all right.
Guys, if you see something, say something. If you want to report anonymously, you can follow the links that are posted in my description. Thanks so much for watching.